Y'all ready?
Yes. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
You're up, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, again, Fred and Barb, I know we're going to have some great photos of the prototype rails there that they visited last month. So we'll sit back and let you guys take it away.
And Fred's got me on a timer, so I can't talk too long. We're here to tell you about Prototype Rails 2024. Fred's going to talk about that because I didn't go. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the layouts that we saw. And I'm just going to say something. First of all, Brad Joseph is a perfect example of some of what we're talking about in all these connections, because the 5 layouts that you're going to see all have connections. And Brad, being a guest from St. Louis, just shows you some of what you can do as a model railroader and a member of the NMRA. So I kind of got off script there. Sorry, Fred.
As long as you don't get off the time, we're good.
Okay, so we started out in Louisville and ended up, our first stop was in Hilton Head Island, which is where I have childhood friends, people that I've known since I was a baby. And we visited them. We did a little bit of sightseeing. So there's a picture of me in front of the Harbortown Lighthouse. And then the next one is a picture of their new Christmas puppy. This little dog was named Autumn, and she was so much fun. So we just had a lot of fun with her. So next stop is Cocoa Beach, and that's where Fred starts.
Yeah. So Barbara and I did spend 3 days up there in Hilton Head and then down to Cocoa Beach. And she dropped me at the curb and then went down to Vero Beach to visit her aunt for 3 days, which left me free to do all the shopping and visiting and everything else I wanted to do. I didn't spend that much, trust me. But let's go ahead and talk about the prototype rails, otherwise known as the Cocoa Beach RPM. How many have been to an RPM meet?
Oh.
Not a bad representation. Pretty good. Okay, good. There are a lot of misnomers, misunderstandings about RPM meets. They're not all rivet counters. Some are. Okay. They're not all amazing modelers. Most are. Okay. They don't all dislike ops. Some love ops. You know, it's kind of like this room here. It's a cross section of the hobby, but the focus is trying to get those models as close to the prototype as possible. You always have to give some, take some, and so forth, no matter what it is. But that's kind of the theme through all of this. But I've sat presentations, excuse me, this is our 3rd year here at Cocoa Beach, that were on ops, that were on building stuff, that were on very specific one boxcar, 45-minute presentation on building one boxcar. And that's what they do. So let's go take a look at this. It's only 3 days long. In fact, it's not even full 3 days. $55 a person. You can't beat that too much. And you can see some other things on there as well. And it's at the Cocoa Beach Hilton Oceanfront. When they say oceanfront, they really mean ocean front. You walk out on the beach, turn left at the right time, and you're going to see a launch coming out of the Space Center. It is that close. It's really awesome. Very nice facility and recently renovated as well. So as I said, it's about 2.5 days. This isn't the full schedule, but you can see the bunch of presentations going on at the same time. The second from the left column is the ballroom, which is where the displays, the vendors, the modular layouts are located. We're going to go in there and talk about that in a minute. On Thursday evening, there's just a few hours there from about 6 o'clock to about 11 o'clock is when everything is running. Friday, it's from about 9 in the morning until about 11 o'clock at night. Saturday, a little different, starts about 9. Everything wraps up by about 11, but the presentations end earlier and the displays, the vendors, and the layouts shut down before dinner time. And that's so that we can use the ballroom for the door prize and raffle giveaway. What a deal, you know? So I'm only going to talk about a couple presentations that I attended. I attended presentation almost every time slot that was available. I only want to talk about a couple of them. It's fortuitous that Kevin Jones is here because Kevin Jones has the 3rd most popular YouTube video on our channel, and it's all about his clinic he did several years ago about using a Cricut to create model railroading stuff. So if you haven't seen that, go back and look at it. This is kind of a variation on that. It's a step beyond, if you will. But this guy did 2 specific items that he talked about. This Union Railroad dining car. When you see it, you're going to go like, really? Yes, really. and Johnny's Diner structure. And understand this is a 45-minute presentation that he gave. I'm just going to show you a couple of things out of it. But he used a Cricut to do this. And one thing he didn't do, other than the details like the handrails, that end piece is actually created on a 3D printer. And I know Don Fowler's looking at this going, really? Dude, what I didn't have was a picture of the prototype. It is so close, you would not believe it. Even the gaps in the end there and the little scallops, oh yeah, they really were there. Try doing that freehand with an X-Acto knife, Cricut, done. So that's kind of cool that he was able to do that. And then there's Johnny's Diner.
Is Cricut a laser cutter?
No.
No, it's a swiveling knife blade.
So it's basically you automate your X-Acto knife. And you can get them at Joann, Hobby Lobby, all these other places for Walmart for a couple $100. Yeah, go back and watch that video. Great. So Johnny's Diner, and this is another one of those, you look at that and go, man, he did a crappy job with the signs. Let me show you the prototype. That's exactly how they did it. It used to be someone else's, and then Johnny bought it, so they just put that over the top. How cool is that? You know? Hey, we do it on boxcars all the time. Why not on a prototype sign, you know? So all this basic structure was cut out with the Cricut, but then he applied material on the outside to get the brick, to get the wood, to get the whatever, and of course a different rooftop as well. But you look at this thing and go, oh man, that is just so cool. All those different angles, and how many of us have struggled to cut out nice squares out of wood to pop those windows in? The Cricut did it for you. So pretty cool. All right, moving right along. Another one I attended was laser cutter. And some of you hopefully have read the PyCard article where Barbara and I have been playing around with a 3D printer at the Northeast Regional Library. They have a laser cutter. So I said, I'm going to go sit in this and see if there's anything in there I might be interested in. And lo and behold, he was doing laser cut ties. He picked that up. So these are laser cut ties, just like you would buy for like $8 or $9 from Fast Tracks. Yeah. You can cut them out in the laser cutter at the Northeast Library. And I just went up to the guy and said, hey, what would it take for me to get a copy of the file that you use to send to the laser cut? He says, give me your email. It'll be there by the time you get home. And it was. So this one sat down and figured out how to make this all work on the laser cutter. And again, we get two of those basically 1 foot square pieces of wood every day for no charge. What a deal.
2 a week. Limited
2
to
weeks.
2.
That's right. Well, okay. And there you can see it cutting, and there's the results of it. Now, what you see in the slide is the one on the left is one piece of board, and that's what's up here that she was able to get 3 cut out of. On the right is one that I popped out of in the middle. And then right next to it is a scratch built Fast Tracks turnout with the Fast Tracks ties that I bought from them. It lines up perfectly with that. Okay. And if you're wondering, all the X's that you see on the ties in that turnout template there, that's the ones that you knock out. And those are the ones that are on the Fast Tracks turnout that are the PC board ties. They keep it all together. So we'll be talking more about that, but not today. Another presentation I sat was all about tools. Man, this guy was going through tools, showing stuff. And I picked out a couple that I thought I might want to share with you guys. Have any of you heard about the right way clamps, these things? Have you ever used them? Can I get those at scale? I'll be in. These are pretty neat little, they just magnetize and just go clamp, and man, that is cool. Razor saws. So we probably all got that razor saw on the left with the big old red handle there. It's kind of, it's great, I think, if I was doing plumbing and cutting PVC pipe, but for anything else, I'm going to ruin something on the layout. But these little resin kits, cmkkits.com, he was demonstrating that, and it makes such a nice, fine cut. So going to take a look at those. If you static grasp, probably most of you buy it in the small bags. Someone I know and love buys it by the bulk bag. Well, when it comes in bulk, it's all clumped up in there. How do you unclump it? Well, these guys, War World Scenics, a UK company that specializes in military stuff. Absolutely. They buy this stuff in big bags as well. You dump it in there, you shake it like this, and it declumps it. And I'm thinking, you mean like that old flour sifter my grandmother used? Exactly. Same sort of thing. Kind of a cool thing. I'm thinking, I don't think I need to buy that. I think someone can probably 3D, I can laser cut that, maybe. Okay, moving right along. Building turnouts, I use a micro brush and a jar of flux, and it's micro brush, flux, and yeah. Then I solder, then I pick this up, and by the time I get done, my hands are filled with gunk. So I'm really thinking about this soldering paste syringe instead. It would be a whole lot less messy. I'm just not sure how it's going to work, but that's kind of cool. To my panel line accents, most of you know that my primary weathering tool, if you will, is acrylics. Just thin it down, put a drop on the top of the line. It just leaks on down there and really highlights that. Once Maya has some special stuff, I might take a look at that and see how that works. Anybody know about this Mr. Surface Primer? Paintable body putty? Kevin, of course Kevin knows about this. How well does that stuff work?
I've never used that particular product.
Okay.
Some of the other stuff, it's all good.
That's what I heard. So I think that's something I might take a look at also. And then interesting, he threw this up there. He goes, oh, this is new super glue. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. It's CA. You know, CA is CA, CA. Oh, no. If you look really close, it's Flexi CA. You know, most CA when it dries is like brittle and hard. This stuff supposedly has a little bit of flex in it. So, and he said you get it from Michigan Toy Soldiers, mishtoy.com. So there you go. All right, those are the only presentations that I'm going to talk about that I attended. A lot of good stuff, a lot of great stuff, but we're going to move on. What time is it? Vendors. Let me talk about real quick about some of the vendors. This is one of the neat things there. Not only do they have people that we'd have at one of our shows for dealers, and there are a lot of those, but they got some pretty big names there. Now, this is not like going to the National Train Show. The only people, well, I'll get there in a minute. So Bob's photos, and Bob, the other guy, I don't remember his name, but Bob's from Wallingford, Kentucky, you know, out in Eastern Kentucky. And this other guy always show up. They're not in the vendor and display room. They're outside in the hall because they got so much stuff. They would take up so much room in there, they let them on the outside. These guys are always there. And if you're looking for a model of a prototype, they probably got it. They probably got it. The only person in the room who gets more than 2 tables is scale trains. And this is what you see when you first walk in here. It was funny. Shane and his wife were in there setting the stuff up, and she was in a panic because they already should have been set up and stuff. And she just kind of looked at me and shook her head. And I walked over and said, so Michelle, what's the problem? We've just got so much stuff to set up. I said, well, you need to tell Shane to stop buying companies. You'd have less to set up. She looked at me and put her hands on her hips and says, right? So anyway, Broadway Limited, they had this nice 4449. I'm waiting for mine to come in at scale. I understand they've been released. They just haven't made it through the supply chain yet. I asked them about it, talked about it, and said, well, here, pick this up. They just said, just go ahead and pick it up. I went, good Lord. This thing weighs as much as most O-scale brass locomotives of that size. There is a lot of weight in that thing. I was very surprised. It's going to be gorgeous. Oops. Let me go back one. Class 1 Model Works had a single table as well. So Broadway Limited, Intermountain, Rapido, they had a banquet round each. This is all you get. That's it. Deal with it and move along, which is kind of cool. You still get to talk to them. And the nice thing about talking to them here, instead of at someplace like the National Train Show or at Springfield, the Amherst Show, there aren't that many people. There's about 200 people there. So you can actually have a good conversation with these folks. A lot of new vendors there, not a new manufacturers. 3D Central is one of them. I have 2 of those box cars in the bottom of the screen at home, a phase 1 and phase 2, waiting for someone to build them. I'll get to it eventually, I'm sure. But there's a lot of that stuff going on there. Most of the people there are like this. Got a little sign out there, and they're like the guys that we would have coming to our Division 8 trade shows and sales. Again, a lot of folks there. Interesting to me this time, you can see if you drill in here, L&N Historical Society was there. The Sioux Line Historical Society is there. This is the first year the Southern Historical Society didn't show up, and I don't know why. So I don't know. Talk about layouts real quick. The first year we went there, this layout was this size, plus the back wall, plus this much more around the end. So it was kind of a weird shaped U. This year, last year, it's half that. This year's, that's all I got. Why? Because there's so many more vendors coming, and there's so many more other layouts there. They said, this is all you got, guys. We don't have the room for you. But still a nice little layout. This is the HO scale layout that was next to it, the one that was under the drape when I took that first picture. The detail on this layout is just amazing, especially when you consider this is a modular layout. You know, you look at that road and say, that's been there a while, and they've done some work. And evidently they had either a water or a sewage issue, because you see the manhole cover and that line of dark pavement coming out there where they patched it. And I love the fact that they didn't even put the manhole cover on the right way to line up with the lines, because that's exactly what you'd find in the real world. They wouldn't, it's like, screw it, we're out of here, we're done, check the box, move along. I love it. Again, the same layout, lots of detail. Now, I'm going to drill in on this one a little bit. You look at it and you go, well, that's a really nice scene. And then when you stop and really, really look at this, you go, wait a minute. What's that I see in the foreground? Dry, cracked earth. How many times do you see that on a model railroad? Not very often. Well, I've done it, but you know, unintentionally. Yeah. Weeds growing out of the side of the road here, weeds growing up around a signpost. And here's the neat thing. You can't really see it. You cannot see it really well in this photo, but if you were there, you could see the far right side of that road, just in front of the flat car, is kind of depressed a little bit. And if it's depressed a little bit, it would have got kind of wet during the rains. It would have kept that rain a little more, which is why they have the ruts in the road right there. This is HO. Yep. Yep. And then, you know, there's so much in here. I'm just going to point out one more thing. This little mound back here, this little hill, it's obviously not a golf course. It's not your front lawn. Well, it could be someone's front lawn, but it's not a golf course. It's not all nice and green. There's bare spots. There's worn spots. You know, just, I love it. And then, just for you back there, Mr. Frank Roan, take a look at this open load. It's an open load of weeds. Not only is this thing weathered to be grungy, old, rusted, they've got bits and pieces here and there. They've got boards that are coming up on the ends, boards that are broken on the bed of this thing, but they've got weeds growing up through the, oh, you just want to go. And that's why you go to RPM. Barry.
I love it.
I knew you would. I looked at that and went, I know where that is. That's Southern California. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. Even though it's only a Fremo HO module. That's just a little module, like just nothing, you know? But the detail he's put in here. Now, this guy was originally in San Diego. He lived in San Diego. He's part of a Fremo HO layout there. He's since moved to the Southeast. He's like, I'm not leaving this. I'm taking this with me. And then he's going to build an entire layout around this. But yeah, orange trees over here on the right. And where I took the picture, I was standing in the middle of the lemon grove. Now, Barry could tell you that this is correct. Those orange trees are correct for that era. In terms of the size, if we had those mechanical reapers out there, those trees would not be correct because they'd be topped off. Because instead of getting people on tall ladders to pick them when labor was cheap, they did it mechanically, and you don't want it any higher than, is it 10 feet? I think it's 10 feet. Yeah. So, you know, just the attention to detail here, just, all right. So there were some displays. This is fine scale models. Oh yeah. I mean, you know, here, hang on. I think I can do this. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you're impressed, you know, next year's RPM in Cocoa Beach is the second week. Yeah. Wow. And there were small displays. And, you know, you look at this and go, yeah, that's kind of nice. And then you start looking closer and you're noticing all the details of like, man, I tell you what, absolutely. Okay, let's go look at some of the locomotives and freight cars that are out there. This is O-scale brass. So there are 3 cab forwards and a fire train. And it's not just O-scale brass, it's super detailed, custom painted, no weathering. I can deal with that on these. These are, and I talked to the guy, he said, these are never going to run on the layout, okay? Unless, you know, I just want to run them one time. But other than that, they're going to be in the display cabinet. So don't worry about the weathering. Oh yeah. Some of these guys have these little 3x5 cards out there to tell you a little bit about him. He's got a 1-inch binder. And this is one of the pictures in there. He kept the roofs on all the cabs, but this is a picture as though you took the roof off. Everything in there per the prototype, all the dials, all the gauges, all the valves, all the everything, and the lighting as well. Yeah. As Bob Franklin would say, this man is not in the same hobby I'm in.
Right. Yeah. He's obviously not.
Yeah. How about scratch-built Monon steam locomotives? This is the first locomotive out of a set of 3 that he's scratch building. And it was an interesting presentation to sit through, but we're not going to go there. Any L&N fans in the room? Yeah, I know. I had to have at least one. Every one of these pieces of equipment, locomotive, caboose, hopper, unique in its own way, detailed, weathered to match prototype photos he had on hand. Every one of them. Oh, my goodness. I thought this was the neatest thing. Any of you guys ever seen one of these?
What's up, pal?
Well, it's a sand car, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a sand car. I looked at that. That is so cool. I need one of those. But it's just such a unique oddity. We're in Florida, so of course there had to be a bunch of seaboard, the same thing as all the L&N equipment, all individually detailed. I tell you what, I probably could have done 20 minutes on pictures of wood reefers, because there was probably 100+ of these things out there. And again, every one of them unique, detailed, weathered, and so forth. Just amazing. This one, though, I want to call out to you. So you can probably read what it says on the screen, but although in the back it's a little light, let me read it to you. It says, totally scratch built. Only parts purchased are door hinges, brake wheel, and the 33-inch wheels. The truck frames were cast from his own molds. And he hand lettered it, no decals. Here.
It's just nuts. Something wrong with it. They're really fine. Too much time on it. Yeah, really.
Like, hang
He's gonna
on.
build a fleet of 75 of those. That was the first 10 years in the hobby.
So,
What scale was that?
O scale.
Okay.
O scale. Yeah. No, it was not Z. No. No, it was not Z. So we came from Kentucky. A lot of people come from the Southeast. I met Tony Custer there, visited with Tony Custer for about 5 minutes. I would have spent more time with him, but there was a line of 20 people behind me wanted to talk to Tony Custer. And, he came down from New Jersey. Well, this is the display from Tony Thompson. You guys know Tony Thompson. Probably some of you have heard the name. Tony Thompson is a huge Southern Pacific modeler from Oakland, California. He came out from this. So it's not just, this is not a regional event. People come from all over the place. Not to be, there was some N scale there. Yes, there was some N scale there. Actually, there's quite a bit of N scale there. And again, super detailed. And look at that long, let me move this out of the way so you can see it, that long line of hoppers. And every one of those was supposedly detailed. And you can see some of the stuff he said he did here. Wow. I know. Oh, but wait, there's more. This is, look at all the stuff this guy did on this Wisconsin and Southern GP30 N scale GP38. But wait, there's even more. These guys don't discriminate. They don't care how you got there. They don't care. They just want to see that end product. And one of my bosses in the Army used to say, don't tell me about the labor pains, show me the baby. They don't care how you got there. They want to see, they're curious about how you got there. But the end result is we don't care. You scratch build it, you kit bash it, you build it from a kit, or you 3D print it. It's okay. So there's no discrimination there. And hey, supporting casting characters as well. How about a little bit of weathering there? Let's see if I got it. Yep. So this is one of the things that I thought was really interesting. I specifically wanted to bring this back to y'all. Bulging panels. So what he's done is taken 5/1000 styrene sheet, cut it to the sides of the panels on a gondola or a hopper. Paint it, decal it, weather it, bulge it, bend it, whatever, glue it on the outside on top of what was already there, and this is what you end up with. So you didn't have to take that soldering iron to the inside and go, oops, I went through the side of the gondola. So he's 5,000 thick styrene. He glues it on the outside after he does all this other stuff. Now, I was there and there was one guy going, yeah, but if you look at the inside, it's not dented, it's not bulging. And I'm like, put a load in it. Okay. I got a guy you can talk to, Bob Franklin. He will tell you how to do that. Okay. But I'm like, man, that's so cool. That's so cool.
It is, that I've enjoyed it.
And Bob, this light is just for you. Again, you know what? No, I mean, open loads.
I love it.
And let me tell you, this is another one that's kind of like the reefers. I could take 10 minutes here and show you pictures, but you know, we've only got so much time to show you stuff. I want to give you a sample, a little taste. Just the, oh my goodness. Shake and take. How many of you know about shake and take at an RPM event? Okay, I didn't think so. It's kind of unique to the Cocoa Beach group, I think. Shake and take is, well, shake and take is, here's a boxcar kit. Now you usually pay $15 to $20 for it. Here's an AccuRail boxcar kit. Here are some detailed parts that you'll need. Here's a list of some other stuff you're going to have to go buy. Come back in a year and show us how you did. And that's what it is. And there's a slide deck or some instructions about how to do it. Here are 4 cars from last year's 2023 shake and take contest. And it's 4 different approaches to the same model. So you've got pictures of the prototype, and someone has, and it's usually Fenton Wells, has usually done this already. So you've kind of got something to go by. Now, some of these guys go to the extreme, like this fellow, okay? And I just want to highlight that this part in the yellow, underframe. I continue to torture myself by trying to reproduce the underframe in brass. This year, I created an etching, creating parts that are difficult to form by hand. As shown, there is still work to go. I would say there is. Most of the guys don't go to that extent, but this year is an L&N ventilated box car, primarily used to haul watermelons, believe it or not. So, crazy guy that I am, because, you know, I have so much spare time. I went and picked up one of these and sat through the presentation and so forth. I'm looking at this and going, what have I gotten myself into? But I think it's doable. I think I can get it done by next January and show it off and so forth. And even if I don't, it's not the end of the world, but I think I can. And you can see down that bottom right slide, it says AccuRail boxcar and some of the detail parts. Yeah, you got to slice off the ends, put new ends on it, slice off a door, put new doors on it. Oh, by the way, that door has rods in it, and I think my only challenge is going to be finding HO scale watermelons, but I've got a beat on that. So, okay. I know. So I talked earlier that Saturday night is the raffle drawing and so forth. So Barbara came up late that afternoon. We went out to dinner with some friends and then came back in, and this was going on. And this is the vendor room, and those tall white tables at the back. Those were the display tables. So just kind of give you some reference here. And it goes on for about an hour. Something new this year that they've never done and may never do again was the People's Choice Award in honor of Mike Brock, who was one of the founders of the Cocoa Beach RPM. So, excuse me, People's Choice, very similar to our Division 8 contest, except it's not virtual. It's right there. You look at it online on the tables. And surprisingly, most surprisingly to this young lady, Cynthia Priest won that contest with her scratch-built HO scale Southern 60-foot waffle boxcar. Most of y'all probably seen this in the NMRA magazine or in Facebook or something like that. She entered it in the contest in Grapevine. And it did not come in first, but it placed second or third. So it's a really nice model, it really is. So she was like, who? Who? What? Yeah, she was still in shock up there. So that was the RPM meet. Whew, a lot of stuff. I know I zipped through it. Again, we could have gone a whole hour on that alone. You're up.
And he's over his time. So
I am.
I go a little bit fast in it. That's why, because he's pushed me. But anyway, we left in early that morning and went to Vero Beach to visit my aunt. And at the time, none of these we saw 5 layouts, and none of them were set up at the time we left Kentucky. None of them. Everything has to do with this connection thing that if you read my article in the Packard. So anyway, we saw these 5 articles or 5 layouts. So I'm going to talk about each one of them individually. The first one was Marty McGregian, and he's an MMR, and it's a 2-rail O-scale layout in Merritt Island, Florida. This one was actually part of the layout tours that they had from the RPM meet. This is the view. His layout is over a 3-car garage, and his home is on the Indian River. If you can see that gorgeous view of the river, and that's from the top of the steps, and I'm standing at the bottom of the steps there. So I really liked the way he framed his MMR certificates. You can see he's got everything in the MMR in the center. He's got all his certificates in his golden spike, all in one frame. I thought that was rather interesting. And on the right, then he's got his NMRA magazine bio written up. This is Marty. He's troubleshooting a finicky passenger car because they were running ops while we were there.
Let me do this real quick.
Okay.
Should have done that sooner. It was a very finicky passenger car.
Yeah, yeah, he was running
was
all
not
over the
happy.
place, jumping from place to place to see. Lots of wonderful little highly detailed scenes on the layout. There's a dentist's office up in the upper left, and then I really like the little doghouse. If you look in the picture on the upper right, there's a mailbox and a doghouse, just some of the details. And then a little hobo camp in the lower left, and then a garage in the lower left.
So what's the big deal about the dentist?
He was a retired dentist.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, and if you think there might be some mountains, these are scratch built bridges. It's the same bridge on the left and the right, but and a lot of mini details. See the fishing scene down underneath the one bridge. Okay, these most of the the structures are scratch built. They're all highly detailed. A lot of them have interior and exterior lights. And you can see in the bottom that he uses the Woodland Scenics Just Plug system to manage the lights. It's a pretty large layout. It takes up most of the space over the 3-car garage, and there's lots of different equipment, different rolling stock and locomotives on the layout. This one in particular is a super detailed scratch built locomotive. This was one of the things that he submitted to qualify him for his Master Builder Motive Power certificate. Okay, remember those mountains I told you about? I'm standing on the second step, and you can see the steps are pretty steep. And the mountains I'm 5'8", and the mountains are, pretty much almost as tall as I am. Well, taller than me if I weren't on the steps. So this is my view to the left, and you can
So
see.
she's still standing on those
I'm
two
still
steps.
standing on the steps, and you can see the aisle is very narrow to get through, but notice all the detail there.
Yeah.
This one-
2-rail O-scale.
Oh, okay. Okay, and this is my view to the right, and you can see there's a gentleman back there taking some pictures, and it's like a one-way in, one-way out because the layout is pretty much up against that other wall there. So he can he's taking pictures. He'll have to come back around those windows to get out. This is a panoramic view from the steps where I was standing. See, I told you there were a lot of mountains there. You need to be a little bit taller to be able to see in, and Fred was just tall enough to be able to look in. So he's standing on the same step, but he's a couple inches taller, so he's got the full view there. And just get an idea of the size of the layout. Notice at the 6 o'clock where the tracks are, how big they look, but when you go up to 12 o'clock, how the tracks seem to kind of disappear. And you see the man in the center there. So how do you get in there if it's mostly built like that? Okay, it's not a duck under, but a roll under. He's got the rolling chair there, and he's got pool noodles that he uses to protect your neck or head or back or whatever from the sides of the fascia. And of course, Fred had to go underneath the layout and check out the bench work and the electronics.
Mike taught me that.
So that's what he was doing there. And then you see this is underneath the mountains, and he used the Bragdon scenery foam material to create the mountains. And this happens to be the yard or staging. I'm sorry, staging.
Yeah.
So, okay, Fred took this photo to show the various ways that they run trains. You can see all the controls, the types of controls that they have that are kind of lined up there on against the panel that shows the
So
blocks.
let me do a little sidebar. She's going to go in the details, but you see everything from 1960s technology to 21st century technology, like 2024 technology.
His goal is to get to, totally wireless, but he's not quite there yet. So the controls in the upper left, you see the two walkie-talkie looking devices that talk to the command station that talks to the locomotives. He's got the iPad, and then similar to the NCE and the Digitrax that a lot of people around here use. Then there's the iPad, which talks to the locomotives directly with Bluenami, which is a Bluetooth interface, and the Bluenami controllers that are in the in locomotives. And you can still see he's got on the upper right and lower left, there's still some tethered controllers. And then you see on the right, it's a PFM sound system, which that's the technology that Fred's talking about from the 60s.
Well, yeah, actually the blocks. So it's still blocked, but he's trying to move to Bluenami in as many locomotives as he possibly can. But if you're in the yard, you're on that tethered throttle, man. How many of you remember the PFM stuff?
Introduced at the NMRA convention in St. Louis in 1971.
Oh,
Yep.
I had 4 of them.
oh.
Wow.
The next stop, we met Mr. Chip Passeri, and this is a layout. This room was in the back of his home, and his is an N-scale layout. And he's actually currently working on his MMR, but he's got some highly detailed scenery and some gorgeous backdrops and things. He is a retired professional photographer, so he really has an eye for the scenery and the backdrops and things. He wants to do ops. That's Chip and me, and then and that's the yard that we're looking at there. Most of the structures are kit built with added details details in interior and exterior lights. More shots of the scenery. And if you look at the lower right one is the one that's most impressive, because that road, okay, he's going to try to, it just looks like the road just goes on and goes over a hill, and then you see the rest of the background there. I just think that is such an impressive sight, the depth that you get with that. So it's in scale, so you're going to be able to run a lot of long trains. He did something interesting with his turnouts, the guardrails. If you see the guardrail, he put extensions on the guardrails with a thin layer of styrene so that to kind of avoid derailments. So he just glued this little thin layer of styrene to extend it a little bit.
And I tell you what, I had to look close to see it the first time, like, what's that, Chip? Because I'm always looking at turnouts.
Yeah, you're looking at everything. So then he had a really nice lighted control panel, and this one is the yard. And of course, it's red means stop, green means go, kind of typical. This is one of the most interesting things to me. Beside the controller there, you'll see looks like 2 flashlights, one on either side. And then, but one of them is actually a black light. Because it's in scale and it's so small, in order to read the reporting marks for an op session, he letters the tops of the cars with a invisible black light ink, and then you shine it with the black light to see what car, so you know what cars to move around. I just think that's brilliant.
Rick, I want to see that the next time we come over, dude.
You can get it on Amazon. So
That's the first thing I've heard of it.
Isn't that cool?
I just think that's really cool. And okay, on the other side of that picture there, it's a panel, and this is it's a hinged panel that's pulled down in a vertical position for troubleshooting and maintenance, but normally it would be up horizontally clipped up against the bottom of the layout. So that's how he kind of did his wiring. I think that's also a pretty neat thing. Chip took us to his favorite restaurant for brunch. He was quite the host, and it was really fun. So we went to the Country Kitchen, which was this little place. We had a delicious brunch, and not a place that I'd ever been to when I was in Florida, even when I lived there, but I think we'll probably go back.
Yeah,
So-
this was supposed to be a 30-minute look at the layout. We ended up spending 3 hours with him.
Yeah, nice guy. And like I said, none of these things were planned before we left Kentucky. So the next stop was Don Iris. This is in Sebastian, Florida, which is about 45 minutes maybe north of Vero Beach where we were staying. And Don Iris is in an HO layout. And Fred was familiar with him from the Around the Layout podcast. That's where he'd heard about it. And that's when he made contact on Facebook or something. And that's how what kind of got all these layout tours started. So
That's his house. No, it isn't.
when he moved to Florida from Rhode Island, and one of the first criteria was he had to build a swimming pool. So after the swimming pool was built, he built this building in the back, which was going to house the railroad. It's a double deck layout. That's Don right there on the left. It's a double deck layout with the helix in the center peninsula, and he uses very few tortoise machines, no blue points. Notice that see the silver handles on the
Wait a
fascia.
minute.
Okay.
Let me drag that
Yeah.
in there.
See those little silver handles? We're going to talk about those again a little bit later, but it's very similar to what Fred and Russ used. They used the wooden dowels to control the blue points on the
So it's push pull on turnouts.
pull.
Okay.
So,
So he's got a rod that comes out and then.
and you
goes
see
down.
the floor looks like it's kind of like just plywood, but that since we were there, he's now put some padding on the flooring. He's got some awesome scenery in this layout, mostly industrial switching. Notice he used a lot of Bernie Kempinski's Alchem fencing, chain link fencing. There's a lot of that kind of surrounds most of these industrial areas.
That's where he's got interest in that stock. It's stock in there.
This is the paper mill, which is one of the primary industries on the layout. And there's several buildings in the paper mill. And then, okay, here's some more pictures. And see the picture in the upper left, that building is a flat. You may not, it doesn't look like it, I don't think, from here. I think he did a really nice job of blending the foreground scenery. And there's more of the fence there.
And more of the fence.
Yeah.
And more of the fence.
And this, he used Macrail, which is another person that we had met in Texas. You hear these names and you just kind of make all these connections. But these were the derailers that he used there. And then there's some detail on the turnout details, the red and the yellow there.
Y'all know what Barbara's talking about when she says the derailers? Over there, the little yellow things in that left picture. So there's actually a hinge on them. You just take an uncoupling pick, you flip it open, and then you can go back and forth, flip it back when you're done with your job.
And the blue flag too.
And the blue flag just to the left of that. Yeah. It's just, oh.
Well, remember what we talked about, those silver handles? He actually is a retired electrician and he uses light switches. They're not powered. He just uses the mechanical. Use them for mechanics, and that's how he controls the turnouts with those little. So I thought that was.
Wait a minute. Don is having a heart attack over here.
It's not powered, Don. It's okay. There's no electrical connection. They're just light switches.
Just cheap little light switches, the 59 centers that you can pick up.
Switch to put the wiring in.
Yeah, the handle. Yeah,
and the rigidity of it, you get it when it snaps or when it.
exactly. And these aren't the ones that go snap, but they go thunk.
Yeah.
Just that soft
You
funk.
look up and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, we've taught another electrician another trick.
They're screwed in.
Yeah,
They're screwed in.
it looks like
Yeah,
they're screwed in.
Also do that. Toggle switches.
You can, yep. But he was a retired electrician. He knew this and he had a bunch in his bag. There's actually an article in, I don't remember exactly which issue it is, but Model Railroad 2013 talks about how you do this. Don did not write that article, but anyway.
Okay, and he uses an operating order of trains and a switch list, doesn't use any car cards for his op sessions, and uses NCE. Okay, yeah, JMRI for signaling and for dispatch. And every switching location has a panel similar to the one down underneath on the bottom picture. This was another interesting thing. Fred calls this the monopoly option, basically like a chance or community chest. He has these cards, and at various points in the op session, he has you draw a card, and it either maybe puts you in timeout and says you have to wait on the fast clock for so many minutes before you can do anything else, or it may be an all clear. But it's kind of just like that, kind of gets it a little bit of interest in the op session.
And I want to say, it's not just a random go draw a car. It's you just put your train together. You're ready to leave the yard, draw the card. or you're at a remote switching location, you're ready to go back home to the yard, draw a card. He has some other stuff going on in there as well, but it all makes sense. It's not just a random, hey, Scotty beamed out, something weird. All right.
How many of you have seen or heard of a proto throttle?
I have.
Well, I tell you, Fred tells me that they emulate an EMD control stand, and I guess that's all that in a bag of chips. That's above my pay grade at this point. But anyway, Fred had kind of looked, he's looked at everything. I mean, he researches all these things. So he'd looked at him and kind of was like, nah, I don't think I want it. That's kind of big and kind of clunky. And do I really want that? So yeah, that's right too. But Don, while we were there, Don says, well, you want to run a train?
Yeah.
So then he says, what do you want to, use the proto throttle?
Okay.
So
This will be different. Brand new layout, different throttle.
So you see him there running the train and with the proto throttle. So what'd you think about it?
Yeah, she already knows what I think about it because we're about 10 minutes into this thing, and I looked at her and said, "We're going to get one of these,
So
maybe two."
So he's already sold on it. He really likes.
You put it on a lanyard around your neck. So I'll tell you right now, if you go onto the Iowa Scaled Engineering website and look for them, they're $500 a piece for the basic one. The other ones have fancy colored, painted, whatever, front panels on them for another $100. I'm like, no. And then the other thing you have to buy is an interface to your command station. So that's another about $100. So it's about $600 for the first one, $500 for each one after that. We will not be giving one to everybody, but anybody who uses one will wear the lanyard.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Or put a deposit down.
So the next layout we saw was John Farrington, and we wouldn't have seen John Farrington's if it wasn't for Don Iris. So we're back to that connection thing again. John Farrington lives a couple blocks away from Don and in Sebastian, Florida. And his layout, he's also featured on Around the Layout podcast. And his last layout, which unfortunately we didn't get to see, was featured in Great Model Railroads 2024.
Is that still available at scale?
Yeah, we didn't get to see it because he'd moved since then, but his new layout is well on the way to being just as photogenic. This is not the prototype. This is
on John's new layout
that's
that
on
he's
the-
just building.
yeah, that's on the new layout. That's just an awesome car there. This is another picture, couple pictures of it. And some of the scenery on the layout that, like I said, it's fairly new, and there's some parts of it that are not as complete as others. There's John. When he came to the garage to let us in, Fred thought he might have seen his teenage son out to let us in.
Yeah.
But
know.
but he's a very skilled modeler, and he's built, the layout is a shelf layout, and it's in two bedrooms there's a closet that connects these two bedrooms. So he cut through the walls in the closet, so it's goes through the two different bedrooms.
It's only drywall.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So the scenery is in various stages of completion. You can see he's got some mock-up buildings there, but
Oh, what's that fencing?
more of
Or
that.
that Kempinski fencing.
So.
Yep.
And then he has trucks on the layout, but they're all Peterbilt trucks. Okay, so this is interesting, and Kevin, those are 3D printed. The pictures on the top is a 3D printed truck, and the bottom one is kit built. So it's just amazing.
I tell you what, they easily pass a 3-foot rule. They easily do. Yeah. And that's why I took those three, put them together like that. It's like, yeah, if you get really close, I had to be about this far away, about 6 inches away to go, oh, okay, now it kind of looks like it might be 3D printed, but wow, really nice.
And the layout's a freelance industrial switching layout. It's the Summerlance and Raritan. I'm not sure where those names came from, but he's got panels on the fascia that before you leave the yard, you have to get a key from the dispatcher if you want local turnout control. And he's got the keys there. I thought that was another interesting little twist to the layout, the operating session.
Layout of the train bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had to sneak a picture of this. This is his office when he's not modeling.
One to one scale.
Yeah,
He sits in the left front
Yeah.
seat of 388 PS,
he's
Papa Sierra.
he's a corporate jet pilot.
Yeah.
So,
They let that kid drive. I'm thinking, do you even have a driver's license? I mean, but yeah. No, he
Yeah.
didn't drive Air Force One. Okay, last one.
okay, so the next one we saw was Al Soul, and this in Port St. Lucie, Florida. It's an ON30 layout, and this is one that's a little bit south of where we were staying. He's an MMR. His layout is based in 1939 in Colorado, and gorgeous. This was in a room in the back of his home as well.
Well, not just a room in the back of his house.
He-
He added on to the
added-
house
okay.
to build it,
To
to
build.
build the layout.
But it's very, very highly detailed. Most everything's scratch-built structures, lots of little mini scenes here and there. Lots of mountains, rivers, and bridges. You see, yeah, it's and tunnels, bridges.
Hold on to him, Karen. He's about to fall out of his chair.
Yeah. And there's more detailed scenes. You look, just some of the detail is just amazing. Many of the structures have highly detailed interiors as well. There was just so much to look at. We could have spent hours there. I think we were there for about 3 hours. Started,
This was going to be another one of those 30-minute come and visit.
and
Yeah.
then this is his dispatcher's office. He has the Life magazines from 1939 to kind of and then if you look at the telephone, he's got one of those old telephones too that was kind of neat. Or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
That's what it's called. So I thought that was pretty neat. This is staging. This is a small narrow room that's off the one side of the layout. And so staging is then there. He uses Easy DCC. That's some of his panels. Here he's
Oh,
showing,
wait.
he's showing Fred this scratch-built rail bus that he had created, that he made.
Yeah.
It is an off, it's kind of like that, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's his own design.
Yeah. Most locomotives on the layout are brass too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Decoders, sound, lights. Yeah, no circuses. No. Yeah, I know.
And here's Al is doing what MMRs are supposed to do, and that's coach somebody else. Remember Chip from before? There's Chip and another gentleman, and they're doing this mini op session, and he's coaching Chip as far as to earn his chief dispatcher award or certificate. This is that same room where we had staging, but this is kind of a view that kind of shows some of his accolades and some of his awards and recognition that he's gotten over the years. I think I forgot to mention that he's earned all 11 of the MMR certificates. So he,
11. Yep.
so
Yep. I asked him I said, well, Al, what happens if we come up with the 12th one? He says, I'll work on it.
this is a picture of a dried plant that he's trying to figure out to get some more of it. And if anybody knows what it is, his source is no longer. And so he gave me a sample of it. So I'm trying to research it and see if we can figure out what it is.
Yeah, Google
But-
plants didn't help us
Yeah.
much.
But this is what he uses to make his aspens because he's in Colorado. He has lots of aspens.
And needs more.
Yeah, needs more. Here's one of the cooler things. This is a stamping mill. It's super detailed. But that's 4 feet from the side of the layout. How are you going to get
So
to
the
it?
interior is super detailed as well as the outside,
Yeah.
but it's 4 feet away.
So how do you get to it to look at it? You use 2 car seat motors to create a lift on the roof.
There's something wrong with that, boy.
And look at the ins-
Do you on the TV or anything like that?
No.
Oh, God, no.
notice the detail. Now I couldn't inside there actually you can't really tell from but the stamping machines are actually moving too. This doesn't really do it justice. It doesn't do it justice.
I had to make those built at service well.
So
I had no idea what it was.
So what happens when you have all these mountains and a train derails under a mountain or a tunnel? You take brass telephone poles and you lift it out because it's made of the light foam material, and then you can get in there to work it out. I thought that was another really cool feature that we saw a
So
lot
like,
of.
just like the first layout we saw, the O scale, we saw inside the mountains, it is Bragdon stuff, same stuff here.
I gotta say, I feel better that a guy who's got a layout that looks that good, has something to rail every now and then. It's John Allen-esque.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
And this was supposed to be just, or it started out being just a layout visit. But when Chip, I think that's what happened. We met Chip first, and Chip had the connection with Al. So they got everything together. So we ended up going there for pizza. So we had pizza, and then Fred got to actually run a train, and I got a private tour of the layout while Fred's running the train. Al's taking me around, showing me all these little scenes and everything. It was just amazing. And then
And then someone had to run the yard too. Oh, darn.
and of course, Fred takes pictures of me taking pictures of him, and vice versa. So for all you rail fans out there, be careful because the railroad police are watching. So no trespassing. So be out there and be safe. So that's about it for what we saw.
That was, yeah. Thank you. I'm gonna flip it over to, hang on here. So we were gone about 11 days total. Drive down 3 days in Hilton Head, 3 days Cocoa Beach, 3 days Vero Beach. Saw an awful lot of stuff. Met a lot of people, reconnected with people, new connections and so forth. I don't think we saw one prototype train the whole time we were on the trip, but we learned a lot of new stuff. And what we took out of it, what we wanted to share with you was stuff we thought you go, that's pretty cool, or like, wow. But yeah, there's definitely some wow factor there. We could have spent an entire hour just talking about any one of those layouts or the RPM meet itself, but we wanted to try and get it down to it's a little bit less than an hour. That's what we try and do. So thank you very much. And
Just a comment.
Yeah.
So, nice presentation, Barbara Fred. A lot of new people in the room. You don't have to have $500 throttle. You don't have to have laser cutters. You don't have to have 3D printers. You can enjoy the hobby on a shoestring budget. You can get in there with tools as simple as your fingertips, an X-Acto knife, and a ruler. What you're seeing is like a 10 out of 10, right?
Yep.
The average modeler is not them.
no, they're not.
Be scared. Do not be.
But I want to point out, Bob, the other side of that is that's something you could aspire to.
Excellent.
And there are some things that even a beginning model writer can look at and say, you know what? I like that. I like the fact that he's using this piece of wire connected to an electrical switch to throw turnouts on this amazing layout. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be grabbed out of that.
Oh, I agree. But
Yeah.
by the same token,
Yeah.
for somebody just starting out or getting back into the hobby or whatever, you see that, it's like, maybe
Yeah.
that's a different hobby that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Go back to watch.
And the connections.
Those are world-class layouts.
They are.
Right?
Yeah, even John Farrington's that's just been started in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Last 2 weeks ago, I gave a clinic in Cincinnati on how to do a 3 square foot scene in 15 easy steps.
Oh.
I use an X-Acto knife, pencil, a ruler, and some glue. And so you can enjoy the hobby without spending lots of money and without having a shop of tools and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm the king of recycling stuff, trust me.
yeah.
Bob Johnson had a question.
I will have a 4 foot by 8 foot
Yeah.
layout at the train show, which you kind of look at that. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. But it's got 4 pair of switches for operation on a 4-bay sheet of plywood.
And I would
But I
say,
can do that.
and the T-Track modules as well. Just about anybody can do those. And that's a great place to start.
Yeah, going back to those, excuse me, I'm watching. the electric switches control the turnouts. I've got a layout, I got John's old layout, and it's got like 12 tortoise switches on it. And the way it's set up, they're not working. And I was gonna do double pole switches, electric. Would doing those electric switches be better,
No,
easier?
no,
Only single pole.
No, because there is no electric, there's nothing electric going through those. They're just using the mechanical probe.
So I mean, would I have to have electric to
yeah,
run through
on yours you have.
No.
Why?
But you got tortoise switches, right?
I mean, if I could disconnect the tortoise switches and just do manual,
Why, disconnect them? You just use.
because right now, the way the wires are not working. So I was gonna have to disconnect everything and rewire them, because John used it's the first time I've ever heard mentioned.
Easy DCC?
System, he used that. I ditched that and went to NCE. So now I've got all these 12 tortoise switches that aren't hooked up. I mean, they don't work. I got one loop that works.
You got a wiring issue.
Yeah.
I think there's a wiring issue and I think someone needs to visit and take a look at it. It's more than we can fix in a couple minutes this afternoon. But
I realize that.
yeah, I think
Kind of,
I would
Kind of
not,
The difference.
I would not abandon the tortoises. I'd ask someone to come over and take a look and see what you got. And it could be something very simple, or it could be, yeah, we need to start over.
RC's helping you on something.
But you know, oh, there you go. Okay.
Well, the other.
Yes.
Oh,
I suppose some of the people in this room are aware of it, but if you want to see a real prototype model speed, you don't have to go all the way to Florida. There's one every July in St. Louis.
Mhm.
It's very good.
Yep.
And not all of the models are in trains. I went to the last one, there's a guy there that had a towboat going up the river
Yep.
with a 9-boat tow. A guy built a Carvana, whatever you call those.
Oh,
Mhm.
that, yeah. The vending machine for
Select
cars.
car.
Yeah, and some of these things actually work. Okay, so,
Robert said in Collinsville? Yep.
yes.
Collinsville, Illinois. right?
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's a 2 or 3 day event.
it is. And in the spring, Chicago
Yes.
and Naperville.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
didn't have a chance to-
There are many RPM meets around the country.
Yeah.
We like the one in Cocoa Beach because we can tie in some family stuff also.
Mhm.
Bruce,
Yeah, and I think what I liked about what I saw in the 22 rather, was the fact that they don't emphasize contests.
no, they don't.
They emphasize interdiscussions like a contest room, but you can talk with the guy that did it. And
Mhm.
in our NMRA contest, you're not supposed to know who built it.
Well, in some region conventions, that's true.
I mean, it's.
'Cause in
it's-
Grapevine-
it's an interest- I think
In
it's an
Grapevine this
interesting-
last summer, I was talking to the people who built stuff all through the contest room.
Yeah, they start having the day that the modelers show up
Yeah.
Yeah,
at the contest room to talk about building their model.
yeah.
Yep.
Well-
But I thought what I saw in the difference between our
Yep,
contest room
absolutely.
in Indy and the prototype room was notable.
To Bob's point about the quality and everything, it's like another thing, the connections, these connections that, how many times you hear, I got a guy, so you've got somebody, all these guys that can help you do these things and with, so, yeah, that's exactly,
the advantage of
yeah.
being a member of the NMRA.
Right.
Absolutely.
mhm.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
Yeah.
So whatever level of modeler you are.
And many of those guys probably started with Athens Blue Box chips.
Except for John, probably. But possible. One more and then we're running out of time.
Frank Rowe just posted kit that he got for $5. Basic kit, and then the creativity
Yep.
that he has, and he didn't start there. I was at the convention in West Virginia when the load that he started and the comments that he made, and he went this way. But he didn't start there, and these guys didn't start there.
Mhm.
But Bob, you can see, he just posted the thing on the division site, and you're going,
In Groot's IO, yeah.
Mm.
yeah. and
Absolutely. Yep.
Because he starts here and then he adds his touch,
Yep.
his touch, and his touch.
Absolutely.
And that's why I like the contest, because I can't do that. They can do better than what it was.
There we go.
I had done a building starting with Tycho Bachmann and then going, no, but going above Tycho Bachmann. Now I've used Tychos for their interior parts, but the same thing. Start here and you go as far as you want to go, whether it's $10 or thousands of dollars.
That's right. Absolutely.
And anybody wants to come and visit our layout, you let me know, I'll let you. And
All right.
we don't charge nothing.
Yeah, there you go. All right. I think we're going to call it a day. Thank you very much, guys.
Guys.